I think Busumi later had a bit of an issue with the audio, so she wanted to leave and try to get back in. And I think Ibn Sina is already in the waiting room as well. So everyone's in place, yeah? Yes, go ahead. Maicha or Husna? Okay, so let's share the screen and start with the opening slide, right? All right, so I will admit the other participants. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the From Citizens to Cities, Participatory Approaches to Building Disability Inclusive Cities, sharing the findings of the 80-20-30 initiatives in Surakarta and Banjarmasin. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Vanesha Manuturi from the Koda Kita Foundation, and I will be moderating our event this afternoon. First of all, I would like to afford my gratitude to all of you for attending our event. Allow me to emphasize some of the house rules before we begin our session today. First of all, this session is being recorded and being streamed live through YouTube. If you do not want to be shown live, please do not turn on your camera. And secondly, we would like to invite you all to rename your name following the following format: name, strip, institution. And thirdly, in order to reduce noise, we would like you to mute your microphone when you are not talking. And next, this event will be held in Indonesian, will be conducted in Indonesian, and some will be conducted in English. In English interpretation and Indonesian interpretation can be accessed through the globe icon, which is in the bottom of your screen, on the bottom of your screen. And if you have any questions or feedbacks, please write your comments in the chat column, and the committee will collect your comments in chat, and we will be discussing it in the allotted time. Now, the From Citizens to Cities, Participatory Approaches to Building Disability Inclusive Cities is an agenda to mark the end of the 80-20-30 program, Assistive Technology for All, where the findings from Surakarta and the experience from the co-design from Banjarmasin will be presented. Now, we hope that this event will also be space to provide what we can do together in the future. Now, in this good opportunity, we'll be listening to presentation from the team of Global Disability Innovation Hub and University College London, as well as remarks from the government, as well as the citizens and other organizations. Now, to start, I would like to invite Ian McKinnon, the Director for Design Inclusive of GDI Hub, to provide a short remark regarding the 80-20-30 program. The floor is yours, Ian.
Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Ian McKinnon, and I'm the Director of Inclusive Design at the Global Disability Innovation Hub. And it's also my great pleasure to welcome you all to this fantastic event. And I'd like to begin by giving you just a very quick introduction to the 80-20-30 programme, which is led by GDI Hub and funded by the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, the FCDO, of the British government. And we will hear from our FCDO programme leader, Anne McKinnon, a little bit later in the keynote section. 80-20-30 is a multi-partner, multi-year and multi-strand programme testing what works to enable access to life-changing assistive technology, or AT, for all. It's made up of 4 programme clusters, grouping 12 different sub-programmes, and today we will hear the outcomes from 2 of these sub-programmes: build capacity and participation, and inclusive infrastructure. When 80-20-30 was originally conceived, it was to look at access to assistive technology, as we knew that many persons with disabilities in developing countries around the world had no access to the assistive technology they require in order to participate fully in daily life. So a lot of our work and research has therefore focused on the AT markets, considering provision and also supporting industry-wide innovation. However, we also acknowledged a couple of key points. One, that it's all very well getting assistive technology into the hands of the people who need it, but if the built environment in which they live still prohibits its use, then that AT is redundant. And secondly, the genuine involvement of persons with disabilities in the process is vital. In the case of places and spaces, ensuring that persons with disabilities are involved in the planning, the design, the build, and also the operation ensures that outcomes are fit for purpose and therefore more likely to be embraced by the local communities who will use them. Today, you will hear from my colleagues who lead the research on these 2 sub-programmes in Indonesia, and specifically the cities of Surakarta, or Solo, and Banjarmasin. 80-20-30 is a very open and collaborative programme, and we are very lucky at GDI Hub to have built strong relationships with Kota Kita and the cities of Solo and Banjarmasin. This has allowed us to bring these 2 sub-programmes into close alignment to support each other, to share learning, and we hope deliver bigger impact as a result. So while this event today signals the end of these specific pieces of work, it also signifies our collective desire to do more together in the future. AT 2030 is a programme that aims, where possible, to have real, tangible impact on the ground. We therefore see today as more like the end of the beginning of this work, and very much hope that we can continue to work with our Indonesian partners, who we've come to consider our close friends and allies in this space. So enjoy today's event. Thank you very much, and I'll hand back to Vanessa. Thank you.
Before listening into the program of AT 2030, now in the next session, I would like to invite some of our distinguished guests to deliver their keynote remarks and speech. First of all, I would like to invite the representative from the UK government, the Foreign Commonwealth Development Office, Anne McKinnon. The floor is yours, Anne.
Good morning and good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to speak today. As Ian said, my name is Anne McKinnon, and I lead on the AT 2030 programme for the UK Government's Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, which I'll refer to as the FCDO. In the FCDO, we strongly believe that investing in science and technology generates solutions to global challenges, those that matter most for our people, planet, and prosperity. Our integrated review published last year reinforced the importance of technology, and through our international research and development investments, we are supporting the development of cutting-edge technologies like those developed through AT 2030. Assistive technology, or AT, underpins FCDO's new disability and rights strategy. That's because AT is transformative to those who need it, providing access to education, healthcare, and jobs. AT enables people to participate in their families and communities and provides access to recreational spaces and sport. Our AT 2030 programme, which Ian has already described, tests and scales affordable access to AT and its services, generating evidence of what works. We take a holistic approach, considering infrastructure, AT users, professional healthcare support, technicians, rehabilitation, data collection, and the production of evidence. And we tackle attitudes to address stigma and discrimination. Most importantly, though, we work with people with disabilities to find solutions. AT 2030 works with governments and city leaders. We provide data, evidence, and technical support to enhance local and national policies. We help to put policies into practice to benefit AT users. The programme works to secure government engagement and investment, which can have a massive impact in the countries we work on. I think that one of the keys to AT 2030's success is their international partnerships and positive approach to collaboration. Of course, when I say AT 2030, I include our colleagues on the call who delivered the programmes we will hear about today, and with each other, has been absolutely critical, not only to the delivery of the projects, but to enhance inclusion in your cities. And people with disabilities, whose involvement is absolutely essential to the success of the programme. Thank you all. The event today is about capacity and participation and inclusive infrastructure. As Ian said, without an environment around you that is accessible, AT is often not used or thrown away by the user. And the genuine involvement of people with disabilities in the process is absolutely vital. Projects will far more likely to be fit for purpose and embraced by those who need them. In Indonesia, you have a strong history of inclusion, which, as our studies have shown, enables people with disabilities to feel accepted, acknowledged, and included in society. Those are strong foundations to build on. Funding and implementing policies and frameworks and developing strategies that are appropriate for the culture of a city or country and that meet everyone's needs is a massive challenge. And we're going to hear more about that now. And I hope that this might inspire other cities, both in Indonesia and further afield, to consider if you could do something similar. We are always happy to share our learning and experience. I'm really looking forward to hearing the presentations and discussions today. Thank you for having me. I'll hand back now to Benisha.
Next, I would like to invite the keynote speech from the Mayor of Surakarta, Gibran Raka Buming Raka. I give the time to the committee to turn on the video, to play in the video. Go ahead. May peace be upon us all. Assistive technology can change lives. It needs to be supported by an enabling and accessible environment. Accessible and inclusive urban space serves as a foundation that underlies economic growth and social well-being in a city. Cities and buildings we live in need to be accessible and need to be inclusive so that social justice can be realized. This requires evidence, strategy, and tools that support cities to implant inclusive design in urban planning, urban development, infrastructure, and all aspects of the built environment of a city. In accordance with the mission of the city of Surakarta in realizing prosperity with the citizens of a just and inclusive city, the city of Solo already has regional regulation number 9, year 2020, concerning the protection and fulfillment of the rights of persons with disabilities. This suggests that partiality to vulnerable groups and persons with disabilities is absolute. And for that, the Surakarta city government puts in efforts to afford equal rights for all Solo residents. Some examples of practices and implementation of these regulations include: 1, equality in education, with the establishment of a technical service unit, Disability and Inclusive Education Service Center, which functions to ensure education is provided for persons with disabilities, with services in the form of guidelines for the use of childcare and therapy tools, technical guidance for assisting special inclusive school teachers, as well as psychological assessment services. 2, equality in economic and social welfare in the form of integrated work skill assistance, such as business mentoring, product packaging, production processes, digital marketing, and capital assistance. 3rd, equality in health services, which comes in the form of affirmative policies from relevant agencies, and the disability advocacy team, which prioritizes persons with disabilities to get their COVID-19 vaccination. 4th, equality in development participation, which is indicated by the participation of persons with disabilities in development planning, starting from the sub-district level work plan deliberation, the district level, and even up to the city level, as well as in sectoral development planning. 5, protection from acts of discrimination, neglect, torture, and exploitation, which is indicated by the formation of a disability advocacy team in 2021 to ensure that the rights and protection of persons with disabilities are fulfilled. Solo City's achievements in realizing a disability-friendly city is shown, among others, by receiving an award from the President of the Republic of Indonesia in 2019 for the embankment market as the first disability-friendly traditional market in Indonesia. And there was also the medium low deck bus trial, which was conducted on the 11th of January 2021 in Corridor 1 of the Batik Solo Trans bus transport, which was assessed as having meeting 80% of eligibility by the disability advocacy team. And the representatives of Adiputro as the bus buddy manufacturer has responded to the assessment. Additionally, the municipal government also provides support for the innovation made by Solo's PWDs in producing electronic waste bin made by DIFA Electrical Engineering Surakarta that was included as a nominee in the 113 Indonesian innovations in 2021 from Business Innovation Center. And lastly, the city of Solo is trusted to serve as the host of the 11th ASEAN Paralympic Games. And I support the Kota Kita Foundation through the AT 2030 program, Assistive Technology for All, to realize Surakarta as a city of culture that is modern, tough, agile, creative, and prosperous. That is all, and thank you. May peace be upon you all. All right, thank you very much to the Mayor of Surakarta, Gibran Raka Buming Raka, for your support to this event and to our program. Next, I would like to invite the keynote speech, which will be delivered by the Mayor of Banjarmasin, Mr. Ibnu Sina. Mr. Ibnu Sina, the time is yours, sir. All right, thank you very much, moderator, Mbak Vanessa Manipuri. How are you, ladies and gentlemen? I hope that you are all healthy and well. Yes, we are. All right, so I will be delivering my remarks for the launching of the Assistive Technology 2030 or AT 2030 from citizens to cities with a participatory approach to building disability inclusive cities. Now, I would like to acknowledge Mrs. Anne McKinnon from the UK and Professor Julian Walker from the University College London and Michaela Patrick from the Global Disability Innovation Hub, as well as my colleague, the Mayor of Surakarta, Mr. Gibran Rakabumi, or the person representing him, as well as all of the representatives of the National Committee for Disability, as well as all of the invitees from the sub-district, from Kelayan Barat, and also my wonderful friend, Mr. Ahmad Rifai from Kota Kita Foundation, and all of the participants who are here today. First of all, I would like to say Happy Eid, and I would like to ask for your apologies, and we hope that we're all healthy and well. And I, on behalf of the city of Banjarmasin, would like to convey our gratitude and our appreciation, our highest appreciation, because the program, the Assistive Technology program, from 2019, which has been done conducted from 2019, and today we will be closing this activity. Thank you very much. The learnings that we have obtained directly, be it in the city administration, the relevant units and regional offices, and also what's even more extraordinary is the learnings that the community has gotten. So involving them in the smart discussions, in the structured discussions, I think that is a very good learning that can be replicated in other cities or places. So thank you very much for that. And then I hope that this program can be continued and the best practices and results that we have acquired, be it for Banjarmasin as well as the city of Surakarta, can be used as a facility to promote how we should plan our cities that is accessible to persons with disability, and as well as an inclusive city that can serve as a model in Indonesia. And additionally, on various occasions, particularly today, which is the peak of our event, this signs the end of these two initiatives in the two cities, as well as the findings that will be delivered we will present to the public, and I hope that this will be a common learning space for us. And in that regards, I would like to put in 3 notes. First of all, realizing an inclusive city needs to consider 3 aspects. The first one is that the policies need to be inclusive, meaning that it needs to be partial to vulnerable and marginal groups, including persons with disabilities. And secondly, inclusive public services, which are friendly to vulnerable groups such as the elderly, children, pregnant women, and persons with disabilities at every level and sectors. And lastly, is how the communities can actually be involved. So an inclusive community that are capable of accepting various forms of diversity and differences and accommodate them in the various existing order and infrastructure. We share our spaces in road infrastructure. We share space in our public facilities. So that is a must. So for that, we hope that we can use this good opportunity as a good opportunity and the roadmap for of Banjarmasin, a disability inclusive city, to become better in terms of population administration, in terms of health, in terms of education, employment, information and communication technology, which relates to the smart city program, as well as transportation. And what's also important is legal protection and budget allocation or finance. And for that, the innovative participatory data collection and its implementation in Banjarmasin are the result of a collaboration between Kaki Kota Foundation, Kota Kita Foundation, and UNESCO. And this project was designed to improve the availability and use of disability data that are fit for purpose in a city. And this has been implemented in Solo, in Surakarta, and this approach is currently being replicated in other cities with assistance given by APEXI, or the Association of City Government in Indonesia, which has been collaborating with various other parties. And I hope that through the Assistive Technology 2030 program that is coordinated by the Global Disability Hub, in collaboration with Kota Kita Foundation and Kaki Kota Foundation in Banjarmasin, the two activities which have been conducted in the city of Banjarmasin in 2019 and in the city of Surakarta since 2021 could serve as a reference in terms of good disability inclusive policies for disability friendly and inclusive city. So that's my remarks, and thank you very much for the collaboration to date. And I hope that what we have initiated can be common learning for us all. So I think Banjarmasin is ready to continue participating in line with the motto of Banjarmasin, which is to involve all citizens in our development. So that's it from me. Thank you very much, and respect to you all from the city of 100 Rivers. So greetings to you all the participants, wherever you may be. I hope that we can continue to have more learnings. That's it from me. Thank you very much, and may peace be upon you all. Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Mr. Ibnu Sina, for your remarks and for the close collaborations that we have fostered with Banjarmasin in the previous years. Now, before heading into the main event, which is the presentation, I would like to invite all of the audience here, particularly some of the speakers, to commemorate this event by having a photo session. Is that right? Yeah. From the committee. Okay, let me start. 1, 2, 3. One, 2, 3. Okay, that's it, Echa. Yes, thank you, Kirana. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. There's one additional webinar photo in our screenshot galleries, yeah? Okay, so now we will head into the main session, which is the launching of the findings of AT 2030 initiative in Surakarta and Banjarmasin, or Solo and Banjarmasin. And in this session, we will start with the findings from the infrastructure research, which will be delivered by Michaela Patrick from Global Disability Innovation Hub. Michaela, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Good morning and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us all today. My name is Michaela Patrick, and I'm a Senior Inclusive Design Researcher at the Global Disability Innovation Hub. And today I'm going to be presenting the findings from our city case study on Solo, looking at inclusive design and accessibility. So before I started, I just wanted to mention that this case study is part of a global study that is looking at different cities around the world to understand the current state of inclusion and accessibility in these different cities. So while these findings are relevant and useful for Solo and cities across Indonesia, they're also going to have global impact and be shared with other cities around the world and be part of a global movement towards more inclusive cities. And all of this work is funded and facilitated by UK aid as well. So our case study on the city of Solo took place between April and August 2021, and we combined virtual and in-person research activities to account for the COVID-19 pandemic and make sure that we delivered this research in an inclusive and safe way for all of our team and all of our participants. So led by Kota Kita in Solo, we conducted interviews, photo diaries, and co-design workshops to engage participants living in the city of Solo. So our participants included 17 persons with disabilities representing different impairment groups such as visual, hearing, and mobility impairments, and 20 stakeholders who represent stakeholders from across the policy environment and the built environment industry. So the aims of the case study were as follows: to assess the current state of accessibility and inclusion in the city of Solo, to understand the lived experience of people with disabilities living in Solo and co-design solutions with them. Thirdly, to research barriers and opportunities for inclusive design and planning in the city. Fourthly, to engage local government, policy, and industry stakeholders in the research and in the mission for a more inclusive city. And lastly, to deliver recommendations and tangible actions so that this research can be useful for people who are living and working in Solo and striving to create a more inclusive world. So I thought I'd start by sharing a quote from one of our participants, which says that inclusive cities are cities that have placed disabled persons as actors of urban development. The key is there, starting from planning, organizing, monitoring to evaluation or feedback. And I thought this is a brilliant quote because it illustrates how important it is that persons with disabilities are included throughout urban development processes and that they have an active role, that they're empowered to participate in city design. So in Solo, we found that Solo has a strong culture of inclusion that is supported by a good social environment and reasonable accessible infrastructure. In Solo, there is political will and a real vision to become an inclusive city. And this is demonstrated by its history of leadership in this space across Indonesia, being the first city to implement disability regulations at the city level. This strong policy framework is also backed up by examples of best practice and innovation that the Mayor of Solo has already shared with you. By working with our participants, we found that the processes of inclusion and participation are as important as the physical design of the built environment. So this means that throughout urban development processes, we want to work with disabled people to make sure that their views and aspirations are accounted for across city design projects. This also means embedding inclusion across every stage of a project. So that's from the beginning, from the vision and the strategy, through to the design process, right through to the construction and then the handover of the building or infrastructure project. It's so important that persons with disabilities are included throughout this process. The reason the process also matters is that we're constantly working to create a more inclusive city. There's always more we can do, and our cities are rapidly changing. So if we embed really strong processes that make sure people are included, we'll ensure that as cities develop and grow, nobody is left behind. I wanted to share 3 areas of opportunity today. So the first is around the sustainability of inclusive infrastructure. We found that it's really important that inclusive design interventions and inclusive infrastructure considers sustainability, as we're living in a planet that is experiencing the impacts of climate change more and more. We need to make sure that interventions we develop are environmentally sustainable to support people and planet. We also need to consider economic sustainability and make sure that programs and projects that are implemented have funding and resources to be maintained in the long term, or have a strategy that supports a long-term resources for an inclusive city. Lastly, we also need to think about social sustainability. So that's making sure that there's public support and public will to continue to work to create a more inclusive city and a more inclusive culture. Our second area of opportunity is around the quality of design and implementation. So Surakarta has good inclusive design regulations, but the quality of the implementation is so important as well. So this means making sure that stakeholders who are working across the built environment industry, such as contractors and construction workers, also have some inclusive design training to make sure that the interventions that are implemented are of good quality. Lastly, our third area of opportunity is around an alignment to a vision of inclusivity. So this is about ensuring that we take a holistic approach to inclusive design, making sure that we consider door-to-door inclusion for people living in the city of Solo. So making sure that throughout someone's journey, throughout their day, they can access the different spaces they need to go to work, to go to school, to play, to visit friends, to live their lives. So we think that an inclusive design strategy can really help here. So having an overall inclusive design strategy for the city can support the delivery of inclusive design and accessibility standards, setting principles that help achieve an overall vision. I thought I'd just share a couple of recommended actions that have come out of the research. So the first one is around cooperation, collaboration, and coordination. So to make an inclusive city, it's going to be built together. Different government sectors, practitioners, communities, we all need to work together to make an inclusive city. And while we see this is starting to happen in Solo, I think there's more opportunity to work across different government sectors, and it's something that could really help deliver a more inclusive city. Secondly, we could develop more space for inclusive citizen participation, particularly in urban infrastructure planning. So while Solo has some really robust mechanisms for community participation already and really does demonstrate leadership from the community, leadership from the neighborhood, there's some work to be done to make sure those processes are really accessible for everybody so that all of the people living in these communities that would like to participate feel able to. Thirdly, there's an opportunity to scale and replicate what works. So where best practices have been really successful in Solo, how can we replicate those projects and practices to make sure that we continue to become a more inclusive city and think about how they can be applied elsewhere. And that doesn't just mean in Solo, that could also apply beyond Solo to other cities in Indonesia and across the world. So I thought I'd conclude by sharing what we think an inclusive Solo looks like. So the first point is around participation for all. So having a city where people with disabilities are recognized and empowered and directly involved in urban development. The second point is about inclusive mobility, having a city where integrated and inclusive public transport networks facilitate people's mobility from door to door. The third point is around inclusive urban life. So having a city where all types of spaces are inclusive and accessible, enabling persons with disabilities to participate fully in urban life. The fourth point is around leisure and well-being. So making sure we have inclusive tourism, inclusive recreational spaces, and inclusive green spaces to allow everybody to do the things that they would like to do. The fifth point is around inclusive resilience. So making sure that inclusive infrastructure is sustainable and resilient and is going to support long-term resilience to crises and climate change. The sixth point is about access to assistive technology and enabling infrastructure. So making sure that assistive technology is easily and affordably accessible to people who need it, and making sure that the infrastructure that we have enables the use of assistive technologies. And the last point is around enjoyment of opportunities. So this means making sure that everybody has equity of access to opportunities and information for all, including people working in informal sectors and informal settlements, so that everybody can work, live, learn, play in the city that they live in the way that they would like. So that's it from me. If you'd like to find out more, you can get in touch with us. Our emails are on the screen here, and we will be sharing the link to the report in the chat, which you can also read. And the report covers more in-depth findings and more recommendations that we found in the city of Solo. What I've shared today is a brief overview of the findings, but the full report will be online shortly. We would like to thank Kota Kita and all of our participants for their participation and hard work in this case study, and we couldn't have delivered it without you. And I'm looking forward to the discussion now with our panel members. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michaela, for sharing the findings. Tentu ada banyak temuan dari hasil.
Surely there are various findings from the research that we can discuss together. And in this session, I would like to invite some comments from the audience here. So from the discussant, please deliver your points in a maximum of 5 minutes. Now, for the first discussant, I would like to invite Ibu Sumilir from the Surakarta's Regional Development Planning Agency. Bu Sumilir, are you with us in Zoom? Could you please unmute your mic, Bu Sumilir? Yes, thank you. Go ahead. Can you hear me? Yes. Right. Thank you. May peace be upon you all. Greetings to us all. Honorable Mayor of Surakarta and Mayor of Banjarmasin and all of the committees and attendees. I'm very pleased to be able to attend here and join you in this very distinguished forum. I would like to initially convey my appreciation and gratitude to Kota Kita, who has constantly assisted us here in the city government in implementing our efforts to realize an inclusive city, where we in 2017 was also helped with the assistance of Kota Kita in preparing a database at the time, actually. So from the data, the de jure data from the population agency, we got 1,700 data regarding our citizens who have disabilities, and we conducted field visits to verify, and we noted about 2,300 persons with disabilities. And from that condition, we made advocacy activities to our friends with disabilities, particularly those who are in need, to provide them social insurance as well as other accessibilities. And from this very good agenda, we continued with that effort, and we created a regional action plan to continue our advocacy into other sectors that they require. And thank God, in 2020, we were able to gain the support from the legislative body of the city of Surakarta, and we have determined the Regional Regulation number 9, 2020, regarding the protection and the fulfillment of the rights of persons with disability for the city of Solo. So the Regional Development Agency have monitored the implementation of this regional regulation, and we are also reporting this to Kota Kita in this forum, ladies and gentlemen, that some of the innovations have already been done by our colleagues in the sectors, in the different sectors, such as the population administration services, and also which has also been developed. We have also developed innovations where we have services for permissions in the field of health for all the community health centers and our hospitals is already been made accessible to persons with disabilities, as well as the services that we provide. And as for education, we also have inclusive education at every level in all sub-districts. And particularly, we already have the disability center for independent treatment for children with disabilities, as already been mentioned earlier. We also have transportation services at the regional transportation offices, as well as for employment, as well as for social insurance, or as well as for sports and recreation. And we also have them participating in development planning at every level, so that it actually involves persons with disabilities, as well as art and culture activities as well, and also infrastructure in terms of sidewalks and traditional market access, as well as housing, and also to provide them with housings on the first floor, particularly for housings that are being managed by the regional government. So this is still an ongoing process, and we know that this has not been perfected, but our government, we are committed. We are significantly committed to achieve Solo as an inclusive city. And we would like to thank you for the study that have been presented. And I think that it will be very valuable input and most beneficial input for us, particularly to make our agenda or to review our budget plan. I think this is actually in line with our latest midterm development plan for 2021 to 2026, which is to realize prosperity and welfare for the urban citizens that is more equitable and inclusive. So we think that the challenge today, that we still have a lot of challenges that we need to face and address. We need to synchronize and coordinate and consolidate with many partners in the future, and we need to have more continued inclusive vision. And we are aware that in some of the facilities in our offices are not fully accessible as of yet, particularly for persons with certain disabilities. And also the quality of the design and the implementation, this should also be aligned with a greater inclusive vision, because we are committed to become child-friendly city, elderly-friendly city. So we also want to have gender equality. So we have to integrate all of these policies so that the strategic scope of creating a more inclusive Solo city will be supported by all of the components that we have in the city of Solo, be it the public, the community, and the sectoral units. And we hope that these good recommendations will inform us and strengthen our enthusiasm, reinforce our enthusiasm to have continued consolidation and coordination, and to improve the participation spaces for the citizens, and also to develop various new innovations and initiatives in sectors that we still need to reinforce in terms of their services. So thank you very much from the research team, and thank you very much to all of the participants. And we would like to apologize if in my delivering these remarks, there's anything that I missed. Thank you very much, and may peace be upon you all. Thank you, Bu Siminler. We really appreciate your remarks, and we hope that that the recommendations will be beneficial to the city of Surakarta. Now, I would like to invite Pak Yulianto from the Advocacy Disability Team of Surakarta. Pak Yulianto, the time is yours. Okay, so can you hear me? Yes, we can. Okay, right. So thank you very much. May peace be upon you all. Inclusive greetings to all our friends with disabilities. And also I would like to say happy Eid in this holy month following the Ramadan. My name is Yulianto. I'm an executing officer from the Disability Advocacy Team, which always coordinates with the city government of Solo. So our purpose is to bridge the needs of our colleagues with disabilities in the city of Surakarta. Now, in order to achieve an inclusive city of Solo, there are still a lot of challenges that we have to face and address. Because if we only face them and we do nothing, then it would be for naught. Yeah, it would be for nothing. So automatically, we have to address all of the challenges and issues in order to realize a more inclusive city. Because the more we become an inclusive city, well, the way I put it is that the a perfect inclusive city, although a city may be considered as inclusive, I'm sure that there will still be a lot of things that we need to perfect. So the more that it is called an inclusive city, there will be more issues that would actually come because there will be more dynamics involved. And here I would like to respond in terms of disability, in terms of our own experience in realizing or our journey in achieving or realizing an inclusive city. So perhaps you could help me, Mbak Rara, to display the photo here. Okay, right. So in this first picture, we can see, as what the mayor mentioned earlier, this is a trial for the low deck bus. So every time there's a new bus fleet, we would trial them. If it is bad, then we'll say that it's bad. If it is feasible, then we'll say that it is feasible. Yeah, if it is not, then what can we say? We will say that it's not feasible. But in terms of these buses, there are some challenges, particularly in the bus stops or stations that are just not actually prepared. But rather than having nothing at all, but yeah, we can accept this. Although we do need to reconstruct this. Although this is a low deck bus, but it actually yeah, it actually solves the problem. Now, could we continue to the second picture, please? Right. So the second photo here, this relates to how we provide understanding about sensitivity, not to the public, but to public service providers and hotel managers and practitioners in the city of Solo. Because in the 2 years of the pandemic, we did not have much activities, and now we're starting to be mobilized, and we try to provide understanding. We try to give understanding as to how, in terms of in the analogy of a ship, if the machine is okay, if the machine is not working well, it's not operating well, in order to sail towards the perfect inclusion, it will take a long amount of time. So we will we refresh the understanding of civil servants in the city of Surakarta, and we also refresh the understanding of our friends in the hotel industry. Yeah, because there will be the 11th ASEAN Paralympic Games. So we are preparing for that. So we have prepared some things such as some of the advocacy materials that we have prepared, so that these hotels are ready to accommodate our friends with disabilities in the city of Solo in terms of the services. So at least if the infrastructure is not yet prepared, because it would need some budget, but at least the service that they provide, they would understand the SOPs required to provide service to our friends with disability. And third photo, please. Okay, so this third photo is where we report to the mayor the findings that we have found on the field. So we try to provide information. We inform the mayor. Now, if the policy cannot change at this moment, at the very least, that there's consideration from the mayor to bridge the need of the persons with disabilities. Well, of course, the advocacy activities that we do is not always successful. It's not necessarily successful in 2-3 months that it will be successful. No. Well, it's just like the regional regulation number 9, 2020 about the equal rights of persons with disabilities, which took a process which occurred before the pandemic, and it had to be delayed. and there was quite quite a strict discussion and discourse with the legislative, but we still think that the regional regulation still has its weak points, but we are still optimistic. And once again, heading towards a perfect inclusive city we need cooperation and collaboration, and we need to monitor and safeguard that so that we can actually realize an inclusive city. So what we have done thus far, we have you can see it in our Instagram handle, and there are some activities that we have engaged there regarding advocacy activities and our measures in realizing an inclusive city. Although I must admit that there are still some misgivings from our part. Well, as I mentioned earlier at the onset, that the challenge in heading or realizing an inclusive city is huge, and we have to confront that, and we have to address that. Okay, so could you please summarize your comments, because you have gone over the allotted time. Okay, I apologize for that. Now, I would just like to emphasize that collaboration is crucial, be it among the government and organizations of persons with disabilities, as well as the public and the community residents in the city, so that the policy that we have made and the implementation can be successfully optimized. Thank you very much. That's all from me, and may peace be upon us all, and inclusive greetings to you. Thank you very much, Yulianto, for your remarks and comments. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Prista Eka from the National Committee for Disability. Now, I would like to remind you as well that you keep your remarks to 5 minutes. Yes, all right. Thank you very much, Vanessa. Good afternoon, everyone. And I am very pleased to represent the National Commission for Disability to be able to attend this very fantastic event. Now, first of all, I would like to mention that the National Commission of Disability is a independent non-structural organization that was been formed by the president as an effort to ensure that the process of fulfilling the rights of persons with disability in Indonesia. So our three main tasks is to conduct monitoring, evaluation, and advocacy, including what is now being raised is about accessibility, or which something which is more strategic, is creating a more inclusive city. And in law number 8, 2018, there are very clear articles that raise that issues. Article 18 about accessibility and about public services, and Article 23 about public participation. Now, on the first point regarding the research results, I think, first of all, participation of persons with disability is something that is crucial, and that is something that is fundamental to be developed. And this has been stated in the research, as well as collaboration, policy, and implementation. So policy will mean nothing if it is not implemented and clarified to the public. And thirdly, is the urgency of assistive technology and enabling environment can actually develop an inclusive city. And fourth is about accessibility. So it was raised a lot about physical accessibility, but in our opinion, it's not only physical accessibility, but also accessibility to non-physical aspects, which also needs to be considered and acknowledged, because this is also an important part in creating an inclusive city. And I would also like to mention that all of the findings were very, very interesting, and it is in line with the task and function of the National Commission on Disability to ensure that each city, regency, and regional government becomes an inclusive area. Now, for the next steps, our response in terms of the three recommendations that was mentioned earlier, I noted that there are three important recommendations mentioned, which was collaboration, and secondly is participation, and thirdly is scaling up or replication. Now, as part of the work of the National Commission on Disability, this is a very good innovation that contributes to development of inclusivity in Indonesia. And I think this is very good to develop in various regions, not only in the city of Solo and not only in Banjarmasin. And first of all, in regards to dissemination of information, so learnings and best practices, as well as what steps needs to be taken to become an inclusive city. This needs to be further disseminated and better disseminated on a national scale, because there is a regional action plan that needs to be prepared by each of the regencies, cities, and regions. And how can that actually be sustainable? And the next step, secondly, is how to conduct mapping out of the fulfillment of rights in terms of this city of inclusive city. Now, our commission has a plan as to how we can map out cities throughout Indonesia as to how inclusive, the extent of their inclusiveness. So that's something that we would like to develop for us to assess. So indicators for fulfillment of rights of persons with disabilities. So this is something that we would like to conduct in the future by collaborating with various organizations, including Kota Kita. And third of all is how to improve collaboration and more concrete targets for assistive technology, for example, and how there is still a huge gap in various regions throughout Indonesia, and also relating to enabling infrastructure. So innovations, accessibility innovations in toilets, washrooms, and public areas. So these need to be made more concrete. Now, out of all of the issues above, from the research results and the next steps, so I think the Commission of the National Commission for Disability, we are very supportive of this, and we also hope that more parties can collaborate with us, and we are sure that the results of the research will be a prime reference, key reference for us to as a part of monitoring, evaluation, and advocacy for our monitoring, evaluation, and advocacy to the future, in the future. So next, I think it has also been mentioned in the research results that in Solo, culture, so the inclusive culture, so inclusivity as a culture, that's something that we would like to develop in the future. And this, of course, needs the collaboration of all parties without neglecting, of course, the participation of persons with disabilities, because this is something that we must ensure. So I think that's it from my part to comment on that. And fortunately, before I am engaged in the National Commission for Disability, I have been engaged with in AT23 in a health initiative. So I've already involved with assessment of assistive technology, actually, in the survey and analysis of regarding the country facts of assistive technologies in Indonesia. So for that, I'm very, very happy that I'm also able to attend this session, and I hope that we can have more collaboration with Kota Kita, and we are very open. Our National Commission for Disability is very open, and we can address this issue together. And I think this year we can start more concrete with more concrete issues as to how we can encourage and promote more cities to become more inclusive towards more inclusive development throughout Indonesia. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for this event. Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Pak Eka, for your responses. There are a lot of things that we can collaborate on in the future, I see. Okay, I can see in the chat column, there are several questions, I think, from Dimas Anindito from UGM, as well as from Marvel F. Utomo from Australian University of Light Sciences. So for Dimas, I think Michaela has answered your question, but unfortunately, due to time constraint, we have to keep some of these questions. And we will, if we do have time during the discussion at the end of the event, perhaps we will discuss them. But for the other participants who would like to discuss and deliver your questions, please do so. Now, before we move on to our next agenda, I would like to invite quick comment from a quick photo between Michaela, Pak Yulianto, Pak Eka, and Bu Sumilir to mark the session. So Rara, could you give the cue when you're taking the picture? Okay, let me count down 1, 2, and 3. Right, that's it, done. Thank you very much, Rara, for that photo session. And thank you once again to Michaela for sharing the research results, as well as the discussants who have provided a lot of support as well as recommendations and suggestions to this initiative. Next, we will continue to the following agenda. And we have listened to the inclusive infrastructure research results from Solo. Now we will move on to another island regarding the results from Banjarmasin. And for this, I would like to invite Julian Walker as the Associate Professor at the Development Planning Unit in the University College London to provide his presentation regarding the results of the activity. The floor is yours, Julian.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. So now we'd like to present a short film showing some of the amazing work that Kota Kita and Kaki Kota have been doing in Banjarmasin as part of the AT 2030 program. Just to give some context, we started in phase 1 of the program by working with AT users, persons with disabilities, and other residents in the city in 2 communities to map out their aspirations for community development. And the 2 communities focused on active community participation and inclusive public space. So in the second phase of the research, we have been piloting an intervention to deliver inclusive public spaces for AT users, persons with disabilities, older persons, women and children, in which they can be involved in active community participation to respond to these aspirations that phase 1 was looking at. And just to emphasize some of the things in particular that we were trying out, we wanted very much to use this inclusive planning method to try out a process for planning, which would include the voices of these diverse groups in the planning and design process, but also, as Michaela was saying earlier, in the ongoing management and governance of those spaces. And secondly, which you'll see as part of the film, one of the things we were trying to do in this process was to try out the use of personas so that when people were engaged in the inclusive planning and design process, they weren't only thinking about their own interests and experiences, but they were also thinking about how other users would experience and use that space. So I'd like to hand over to the film in which you can see these ideas and the things that we were trying to carry out in a little bit more concrete detail. Thank you very much. And I hope you enjoy the film.
Yes.
Oke, selama 2 hari ini kami bersama warga Pelambuan melakukan proses co-design, yaitu bagaimana bersama-sama warga mengimajinasikan, mengkonseptualkan, dan juga merancang visi sebuah ruang publik di Pelambuan. Tetapi bukan hanya ruang publik, tapi ini adalah ruang publik yang inklusif. Artinya ruang publik untuk semua, untuk anak-anak, untuk orang tua, untuk warga, dan juga warga yang berkebutuhan khusus. Jadi yang menjadi focal point ataupun fokus di ruang publik ini ataupun konsep perancangan ini adalah bagaimana desain-desain yang inklusif dan juga prinsip-prinsip universal design bisa terwadahi di sini. Pada hari pertama bersama warga, kami menggali ide-ide dan mengeksplor kemungkinan-kemungkinan yang mungkin diaplikasikan di ruang publik di Pelambuan. Dan tools yang digunakan atau alat-alat yang digunakan adalah melalui Lego ini. Dan juga melalui persona. Jadi ada karakter-karakter Lego yang dipersonakan yang mempunyai cerita-cerita tertentu atau cerita-cerita khusus. Contohnya misalnya Pak Ahmad yang memakai kursi roda yang harus dibantu oleh anaknya. Ada juga Bu Ida yang sudah tua dan juga mempunyai gangguan dalam penglihatannya. Jadi ini bukan hanya mengkonseptualkan, tapi juga bagaimana warga bisa belajar dan sensitif terhadap isu-isu disabilitas yang ada di sekitar masyarakat. Jadi persona ini sebenarnya bukan hanya cerita, tapi juga permasalahan yang sebenarnya ada di masyarakat. atau nantinya akan berada di masyarakat. Dari konsep besar tersebut, di hari kedua kita melihat bagaimana ide tersebut masuk atau fit ke dalam konteks spasial dari site yang terpilih yang berada di Pelambuan. Dari sini bisa terlihat skala-skala peruangannya dan juga warga bisa merasakan ukuran-ukuran, bagaimana ukuran itu cocok atau tidak dan bagaimana penempatan peruangan seperti fitur-fitur bangku, pintu, dan juga fitur-fitur keamanan untuk mewadahi dari persona-persona yang sudah didiskusikan di hari pertama untuk masuk ke sini dan juga bagaimana warga bisa beraktivitas di sini. Jadi di hari kedua itu warga dapat membayangkan lebih nyata bagaimana ruang publik itu akan terbentuk. Warga ikut membentuk lebih detail lagi ruang publik tersebut melalui maket ini. Mungkin awalnya warga sedikit terkejut dengan melihat mainan-mainan yang kita bawa, yang biasanya dimainkan oleh anak-anak, tetapi bagaimana permainan-mainan Lego ini bisa menjaring ide-ide mereka dan juga membentuk konsep dari ruang publik tersebut.
Hari ini kegiatannya diskusi bersama, terus tuh main Lego, itu menyusun merancang bangunan dari semua yang ada. Alhamdulillah senang. Artinya banyak yang mendukung gitu. Nah. Bangunannya tentang kegiatan yang ada di Sipang Jagong. Yang didapat hari ini ya bahagia lah bisa ikut bergabung untuk konsep semua yang ada.
Di mana warga semua bisa bercerita melalui karakter-karakter Lego ini dan juga bisa menandai peruangan-peruangan ini melalui beberapa balok-balok Lego ini. Jadi bukan hanya merancang sebuah ruang publik, tapi juga di sini bagaimana kita menimbulkan rasa kepemilikan atau sense of belonging dari warga, karena ide-ide ini juga berasal dari warga dan warga ini sendiri juga yang ikut membangun fitur-fitur ini, sehingga ruang publik yang nantinya akan terbangun dan terwujud erat kaitannya dengan warga Pelambuan itu sendiri.
Yang paling berkesan warga dilajarin mendesain ya. Sebenarnya kan warga nggak pernah dilajarin kayak gitu, pakai APE permainan gitu. Dan tempo dulu kan biasanya anak-anak yang menggunakan. Ini sekarang kita yang menggunakan kan orang-orang yang tua, sudah tua, dilajarin desain gimana ini tempat apa untuk apa memfasilitasi bagian disabilitas, lansia supaya enak kan menuju akses yang pertemuan tadi itu. Kami menuangkan inspirasi kami semua kan, apa yang kami inginkan tersalur di sini, di tempat ini. Desain gimana yang tempatnya pertemuan yang gimana, apakah yang bertingkat atau enggak, yang gimana supaya nyaman buat lansia, buat penyandang disabilitas, buat yang ibu rumah tangga yang mempunyai anak gitu.
Kalau yang kami diskusikan tadi itu bangunannya itu kami menginginkan istilahnya yang sebagai tempat pelatihan, kalau difokuskan di sini sasirangan. Jadi kami itu minta yang bangunannya tuh 2 tingkat. Untuk yang di bawah untuk pertemuan, kalau yang di atas untuk cadangan dan sebagai tempat penyimpanan barang. Kalau yang disabilitas kayak para lansia yang pakai kursi roda, untuk akses masuk ke dalam ruangan itu dibuatkan untuk tanjakan sejenis ram kah ya namanya itu, dan pegangan tangan kayak buat lansia.
Alhamdulillah ada perubahan. Yang dulunya kita tidak tahu RAM, masyarakat juga tidak tahu RAM, jadi tahu tentang aturan juga mereka nggak tahu, jadi tahu. Saya juga dulu nggak tahu apa itu aturan, sekarang jadi tahu. Alhamdulillah. Teman-teman juga mereka kan jadi tahu.
Kami dari community sudah membantu itu proses kemarin tuh pembersihan tempat, pengusungan tempat, kemudian kami membantu dengan warga proses pendatangan pendirian bangunan dengan mengadakan memasukkan bahan bangunan ke dalam. Jadi dibantu dengan warga itu gotong royong membantu untuk memasukkan bahan-bahan bangunan untuk tempat bangunan. Tujuan untuk pendirian komite ini adalah untuk memudahkan intinya proses untuk pengawasan pendirinya bangunan yang dibangun untuk balai pertemuan yang ada di IT 68. Pembentukan komite kemarin itu berdasarkan musyawarah, ya dia terbentuk komite yang terlibat berupa 6 RT gitu. Soalnya kan di lingkungan ini yang memerlukan di lingkungan kampung KB kan 6 RT. Jadi kalau untuk sini dibangun yang memerlukan adalah 6 RT. Jadi kan kita libatkan ke 6 RT-nya itu. Jadi kan terlibat bukan hanya RT saja. Jadi masyarakat di lingkungan ini sama stabilitas dari pengurus posyandu dan yang lainnya gitu.
Ruang publik adalah bagian penting dari kota yang menopang berbagai aspek kehidupan warga di kota, terutama sosial dan ekonomi. Namun nyatanya, saat ini masih banyak warga yang berkebutuhan khusus dan kerap mengalami diskriminasi seperti difabel, anak-anak, dan lansia yang belum bisa menikmati ruang publik selayaknya. Metode Participatory yang kami kembangkan bersama University College London dan Global Disability Innovation Hub dalam kegiatan EDI 2030 ini bertujuan untuk menciptakan zona yang aman dan nyaman bagi warga, terutama bagi warga difabel dan lansia yang sebelumnya belum pernah aktif di kegiatan warga. Metode ini juga membangun kapasitas dan agensi mereka untuk turut serta menyampaikan aspirasi dan kebutuhan kolektif akan ruang publik. Sehingga ruang publik yang dibangun sepenuhnya dirancang oleh warga, dibangun bersama warga, dan digunakan untuk kepentingan warga.
Ya, sangat bahagialah saya. Terus saya sangat berterima kasih karena di tempat kami ada dibikinkan tempat untuk pertemuan. Kan selama ini kami nggak punya tempat kan untuk pertemuan warga. Alhamdulillah dibikinkan gitu, didesainakan.
Rumah bangun baru ini saya harap bisa bermanfaat untuk orang banyak, untuk posyandu, bayi, dan untuk belajar, baca buku, dan rapat, dan lain-lain.
Harapan kami di sini nih warganya kan bisa menggunakan tempat ini yang untuk lebih baik ke depannya. Pokoknya nyaman segala-galanya sudah menggunakannya tuh nah. Baik berobat, baik untuk posyandu lansia, posyandu balita kan bisa menggunakannya. Dan bukannya posyandu aja, warga juga bisa menggunakan tempat ini.
Investasi untuk ruang publik yang lebih inklusif dan aksesibel tidak hanya mementingkan satu kelompok saja, tetapi dapat berdampak positif bagi semua warga kota.
Baik.
All right. So now we will head into the discussion session based on the Banjarmasin activities. Now I would like to invite the discussants. Now, please, you are allowed to deliver your comments and suggestions in a maximum of 5 minutes. Now, first of all, I would like to invite Pak Agus Sultoni as the head of the sub-district in Pelambuan regarding this, about your comments regarding this program, sir. Go ahead. May peace be upon you all. Thank you and good afternoon for everyone. First of all, I would like to convey my gratitude to the moderator, Ibu Vanessa Manituri, and also Honorable Mayor of Banjarmasin, Mr. Ibnu Sina, and also distinguished Mayor of Solo, and also the committee members of AT 2030, and also all of the source persons, as well as those from the Kota Kita Foundation for the city of Banjarmasin, as well as all of the participants in today's event. Surely, I, as the head of the sub-district at Pelabuhan, I'm really thankful that I can join with you this afternoon in the series of activities in at AT 2030 program. And surely this activity is most beneficial to the citizens in our sub-district. And this is an activity that we have been waiting for and we are expecting from the Kaki Kota Foundation and the Kota Kita Foundation. Now, this is an activity from the citizens to the citizens in order to develop a more inclusive city. Now, inclusivity is an approach to develop an open environment for anyone with different backgrounds and conditions. And this also refers to those who have different characteristics, different conditions, physical conditions, status, race, culture, and others. So it is indeed true that what we have done in the city of Banjarmasin, the activities that we've done in the city of Banjarmasin is to emphasize Banjarmasin as an inclusive city, because Banjarmasin has the mission to become a city of piety and dignity and respect, which has actually been mentioned by our mayor, Mr. Ibnu Sina, that Banjarmasin is a pious city and it is a comfortable city for all of its residents. So I, as the head of the sub-district of Pelabuhan, I really support the vision of the mayor of Banjarmasin. And also, I would like to thank the Kota Kita Foundation or the Kaki Kota Foundation in Banjarmasin, who have opened the opportunity for dialogue and provided the time to the sub-district of Pelabuhan and provided us with the space and facilitate us in our activities, which have of course been facilitated by Kaki Kota and Kota Kita here in Banjarmasin. So from what we have seen in the video, it is clear that the community, particularly in the sub-district of Pelabuhan, are very involved and engaged in the activities facilitated by Kaki Kota and Kota Kita. And I myself always coordinated with the residents, with the communities, as well as with Kaki Kota and Kota Kita in Banjarmasin without stopping. And we welcome the program that provides comfort to the residents here in Pelabuhan sub-district. And thank God, I'm very thankful to God that it was shown a building which is quite representative that the residents do not have as to this day, and it will be used by the residents as a place for meetings by the residents, which we do not have as of yet here in the sub-district of Pelabuhan. And surely the city government in this regards, they have funding, to have some funds that did not reach the villages or the kampongs to how can I say it, to allow the request of the residents. So in this opportunity, we would like to thank God that due to that Kota Kita and Kaki Kota has responded to our request, and they have put in a lot of efforts to construct the building that has already been made. And hopefully in the near future, it can be utilized by the surrounding community. Oh, Pak Agus, could you please start to wrap up your summary, sir? Okay, so in conclusion, for this activity, first of all, I, as the head of the sub-district of Pelabuhan, would like to convey our gratitude for the assistance that has been given by Kaki Kota and Kota Kita. And I also hope that for the residents in Pelabuhan to utilize the building as best as possible and maintain it. And that is it from me. Thank you very much, and may peace be upon you all. Thank you very much, Pak Agus, for your comments and impressions. And next, I would like to invite Bu Masni as the representative from HWDI Banjarmasin. Go ahead, Bu Masni, or the Indonesian Women with Disabilities Association of Banjarmasin. May peace be upon you all. Good afternoon. For the mayor, for the distinguished mayor of Banjarmasin and Solo, as well as the Kota Kita and Kaki Kota Foundation members, as well as the team members with AT 2030 and everyone who is present here this afternoon. Now, in regard to my experience with the AT 2030 program, I thank God that there have been a lot of benefits for myself personally and also from my friends with disabilities in particular, particularly for public spaces and public buildings. Thank God it is already made more inclusive, as well as the streets and the roads. So the Kaki Kota and Kota Kita foundations, they have taken data of our friends with disabilities and coordinate with the mayor of Banjarmasin, and most of our friends have already been put in the data, because in the past we also tried to make data, but we only had a limited reach, and now more persons with disabilities have already been included in the data, more or less about 1,000 persons with disabilities. So if we took the data, it was not even up to 500 persons with disabilities. So thank to God, you have provided us the assistance to obtain this data. Now, our expectation, or we hope that the government could pay more attention to persons with disabilities, and we hope that the public in the city of Banjarmasin will have more attention to us, so that our rights would not be neglected. So the government has improved the streets and the infrastructure in the cities, in the public areas. I'm sorry, she's breaking up. And I'm sorry, she is breaking up. But perhaps the public has not been informed about this entirely. So I think she's breaking up. Hello, Bu Masni. Are you still with us? Okay, it seems that Masni. Oh, okay, here, she's back on. So yeah, I have a bit of difficulty with my signal. Could you please wrap up your comments? Oh yes, yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. Is that all? Are you done?
Terima
Yes.
kasih.
Okay. Right. Right. Okay. So was that your comment, or do you have anything else that you would like to mention? Okay, all right then. So please allow me to move on to the next discussant or commenter. Okay, so thank you once again to Bu Mani. Now I would like to invite Pak Sunarman Sukamto as the representative from the Presidential Office staff. So go ahead, sir. Perhaps you can unmute your mic, Mr. Sunarman. Could you please unmute? Sorry, I forgot. Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Well, yes, we can. Thank you. Yeah, because in Jakarta, it's raining at the moment. So if there's any disturbance in the signal, I would like to apologize in advance. So I would like to acknowledge the distinguished mayor of Surakarta, Gibran Raka Buming Raka, as well as the members of the government here and there in Surakarta, as well as the mayor of Banjarmasin, as well as the head of the sub-district in Kelayan Barat and Pelabuhan, as well as from the University College of London and GDI Hub and FDCO. So as a commentator, I actually need to visit Banjarmasin first, yeah. So you should have invited me to Banjarmasin next time, perhaps next time. But because I only have 5 minutes, well, please allow me to share my screen if I may, so that Yes, go ahead. I think you already have access. You're already given access by the committee. Okay, so permission to share my screen. So 5 minutes, I hope that it's enough. So participatory approach in developing an inclusive city. Good practices from the sub-district of Pelambuan and Kelayan Barat from the city of Banjarmasin. This is comments from me, myself, Sunarman Sukamto, based on the information that I've received. But I have never actually visited or yeah, I've never visited to the site actually. So surely the concept of inclusivity and participatory concept is something that is very relevant with the vision of development here in Indonesia today. Now, building a city begins with the collective imagination of the stakeholders, be it the policymakers, decision makers, technical implementers on the ground, or even the city residents, as well as the users and taxpayers. However, to date, the imagination has yet to reflect the interest and need of all city residents. There are some city residents whose aspirations have not been accommodated. Now, Kota Kita has conducted good practices by filling that gap, which is by building an inclusive imagination through simulation of situation and condition of elderlies, women, children, and persons with disabilities through educative games and participatory games. Now, along with the local stakeholders, Kota Kita invites to reflect the existing public participation and space by exploring the obstacles and solutions based on their needs. Now, regarding the concept of inclusivity and participatory, based on that reflection, then design of the space, services, and public participation for all was created, including inclusivity for children, elderlies, and persons with disabilities. Now, women, children, and persons with disabilities are 3 out of the 4 target groups of the National Action Plan for Human Rights, in line with the Presidential Regulation number 53, year 2021, which is a document that contains strategic objectives that is being used as a reference for line ministries and agencies, as well as regional governments for the provinces and regencies and cities, in order to implement the protection and fulfillment, as well as enforcement and advancements of human rights in Indonesia for 2021 to 2025. So the Kota Kita, with all of its supporting system, the city of Surakarta and Banjarmasin, as well as the GDI hub, as well as UCL. So this is very in line with the vision of city in Indonesia. So the concept of building a city that is inclusive, participatory, and inclusive in Indonesia is a process that builds a common understanding and joint agreement based on reflection and imagination, based on the common life arrangement, particularly for those who are often marginalized. So this is clearly shown in the video and in some of the documents that I have received. Now, what is the continuity and replication? Now, good practices in participatory approach of building public participation and space that is more inclusive can be adopted by city government, district government, as well as sub-district government in the city of Banjarmasin, and it can be implemented in the broader communities. Yeah, so including the children communities to develop inclusive imaginations from an early age, and to prevent exclusivism, ableism, and to strengthen cohesion and social inclusion. And social cohesion. So the communities that we saw in the video were elderlies, children, and persons with disabilities. Now, I have yet to see the children community being shown in the video. So children are very important in the future context. Now, another opportunities, the presidential office will also promote the participatory approach in building a more inclusive city by referring to the good practices at the Pelabuhan Subdistrict and Kelayan Barat Subdistrict in the city of Banjarmasin. So this is in line with the Human Rights National Action Plan, which is in the Presidential Regulation 53/2021, and the Regional Action Plan for persons with disabilities, regarding the implementation of the Regional Regulation number 70/2019 on the planning, implementation, and evaluation of, which is a derivative of the law on the rights of persons with disabilities. So this is a midterm development plan, which is 5-year plan. And currently, the central government has determined the law number 8/2016 regarding persons with disabilities, with 7 regional government regulations and 2 presidential regulations and several ministerial regulations regarding this issue. And currently, there are 23 regional regulations, 16 city regulation, and regional regulation regarding persons with disabilities. And lastly, excuse me, Pak Maman, could you please wrap up, because we have gone over 5 minutes. Okay, here's the summary. Right, so there is no inclusion if there's no accessibility and full participation and meaningful participation by all stakeholders, including elderly, persons with disabilities, and children. Inclusion and participation is very important to be continuously developed by using creative, educative, progressive, and transformative means. Now, assistive technologies is most vital for the participation of persons with disabilities and elderly, because without assistive technologies, accessibilities that are provided will not be used optimally. So the insurance of assistive technologies is very important to be included in the existing social insurance scheme. So this is also key. Political will and the role model of the regional leadership is key for the establishment of regional regulations and implementation in the region in order to achieve a more inclusive development that can be beneficial for persons with disabilities. So surely we need a tiered advocacy and sustainable advocacy in order to realize the programs and budget that is more responsive to the rights of persons with disabilities. So the collaboration between accessibilities for persons with disabilities, and we would like to appreciate Kota Kita, Banjarmasin, and Pelabuhan and Kelayan Barat. And the collaboration between the central government and the regional government, public and private, as well as combination of top-down and bottom-up approaches becomes something that needs to be done for the sustainability and to replicate these good practices. So I think that's my summary and our appreciation. Thank you very much, Mr. Maman. It was most comprehensive, and there are still a lot of things that we can discuss further. So perhaps another time we could invite Pak Maman to come and visit Banjarmasin. So thank you very much to all of the discussant, and also Julian for your opening discussion. Now I would like to represent the committee because I would like to apologize for the delay in the event. And I would also like to mention that for those of you who give your questions in the chat column, due to time constraint, we are unable to respond to your questions. But if you want to contact us, please do so. You can contact us in our website, and Kota Kita's website, or in the website of our partners, in our respective partners. So we can still remain connected and connect with each other, although we cannot discuss it in this forum as of yet. Now, with this, I would like to close and summarize the main session of the sharing the findings of the 80-20-30 initiative in Surakarta and Banjarmasin today. So once again, I would like to thank all of the presenters, Michaela Patrick from GDI Hub, as well as Julian Walker from University College London, UCL, and also for all of the discussants who have enrich our discussion today. And hopefully we will gain a lot of insights and knowledge from today's session. Now, to conclude the event, I would like to invite Mr. Ahmad Rifai as the Executive Director of Kota Kita to deliver some of his closing remarks. The time is yours, Mr. Rifai. Thank you very much, Vanessa. Good afternoon, and may peace be upon you all. Greetings to us all. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the distinguished mayor of Banjarmasin, my dearest friend, Mr. Ibnu Sina, who has attended this event and has stayed tuned throughout the event, and also to the distinguished mayor of Solo, Mr. Gibran Raka Buming Raka, who has delivered his remarks, and also to the distinguished Ms. Ibu Anna McKinnon from FCDO. I would also like to thank all of the support that has been given to us from FCDO. And I would also like to thank our partners from GDI Hub, Ian, Michaela, and Professor Julian Walker from UCL, as well as our collaborators in Banjarmasin, Kaki Kota, and there's Reza, Eka, and our partner organizations who support this activity, from PPDI, from the HWDI, as well as Gerkatin and so forth, who participated in the process of the project, which started in 2019. And I would also like to acknowledge my old friends who are here, Mas Marman, who is now in Jakarta, who is in the presidential office, who I also, Mas Eka, yeah, thank you for attending this event. Also our friends from Solo, Ibu Sumilir and Mas Yuli. So thank you very much for your support to this project. Now, I will not be summarizing. I mean, if I summarize this, it's like I'm able to capture all of the essence of today's this afternoon's session. But today, I would just like to mention a little bit of comment that we at Kota Kita, since our establishment till today, we have one vision that is quite clear. We want to encourage the development of city for all. So we want to realize that without, regardless of class identities, class, race, gender, religion, or any other aspect. Now, Kota Kita pays special attention to bridge and promote participation for all parties. And the most important is for those whose voices have never been heard are raised. So that's actually the focus of our vision. And fortunately, Kota Kita was established in the city of Solo, which inspired civil society movements. And the sectoral groups, be it from the formal or informal sectors, are quite dynamic in Solo as well. So that is a key modality for us in this in our efforts. So we hope that in the future this will still be maintained in order to safeguard our momentum to become a more inclusive city. Now, in the context of AT 2030, or AT 2030, the city of Solo and the city of Banjarmasin, we feel that they have a strong history and legacy in accommodating the needs of persons with disabilities or ideas about inclusive city. So when we initiated the AT 2030 program, along with our friends at GDI Hub and UCL, as well as Kaki Kota and our other in our partner organizations, we believe that these two cities are able to become pioneers as well as a role model for an inclusive city. So what I actually want to raise in today's reflection is, well, my important note is that that should be a reminder to us all is how we can define inclusivity comprehensively. So that inclusivity is inclusive for all and no one left behind. Although the AT 2030 program seems to have an emphasis on the issue of assistive technology as well as persons with disabilities, but by raising this nuance of inclusivity is raising the involvement of all. So the involvement of multi-actors is very important. It's not limited to involving actors or persons with disabilities. But here in Kota Kita, in the two cities, we support actors such as children, women, elderlies, as well as local government stakeholders, youths, university students, and others. So I underline this as, which is a success of this program, is to encourage the entities in the cities to work together to realize an inclusive city. So from this program, we have conducted research and collaboration with communities in these two cities, and the results can be seen as we have witnessed earlier in these two cities that we have intervened in. And the research results can be used as grounds for taking measures into the future, and we hope that this can be maintained and hope that this can be used as a good role model and example for the future. So I think all of you can access the results freely in our website, and we will also process the research results for our future advocacy. So from Kota Kita, I would like to mention that the experience we have obtained from Solo and Banjarmasin will continue to maintain and develop so that it will become a dynamic knowledge that can be reproduced to improve to improve development, urban development. So given the support by FCDO through the Future Cities program, there is a commitment to replicate this experience in three other cities, which is Semarang, Surabaya, and Makassar. So God willing, we hope that this can actually enrich and strengthen our knowledge and experience to develop a better city in the future, particularly an inclusive city for all. And in this year, we would like to mention that along with our Gerkatin friends in Solo, or the Indonesian Movement for the Welfare of the Deaf in Solo, we will attempt to strengthen our youth through art activities in urban spaces. And Kota Kita currently, in this opportunity, we would like to congratulate the city of Solo through the Regional Transportation Office of Solo to be a Streets for Kids leadership accelerator from the Global Designing Cities Initiative, or GDCI. So, and hopefully with this step, this can be a milestone to become a more inclusive city and a more child-friendly city, particularly for the city of Solo in the future. So lastly, I would like to close by saying thank you very much for all of your support, for all of the support that has been given to us, and for the success of this project. I would like to convey my warm regards and thank you very much, and may peace be upon you all. Thank you, Mas Rifai, for the remarks and the reflections. So this is where our session ends, and to represent the committee, I would like to convey my gratitude for those of you who have been tuning in from start till end, and I would like to apologize if there are any misgivings and if there was a delay for the agenda of the session today. And hopefully what we have done today can be followed up by a more concrete actions to create a more disability friendly and inclusive city. So I will see you in the next session, and thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all. Thank you, Arfan. Thank you, Eka, Mr. Ibnu Sina, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Thank you. See you. Thank you. Permission to leave, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.